I really miss buying singles. I feel like I'm in a really awkward spot right now where I want to get into the new set of the game. We're in BT14, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, shit, I can't find even SRs. I can't find it in our local community. Everybody's buying up yellow vaccine.
Oh, yellow vaccine is the biggest one.
Yellow vaccine's been going like crazy.
You know what?
And
I thought yellow vaccine was the big one. I paid a premium for a playset of Patamons.
Sure.
And then I saw the price on Commandramons. And I'm like, maybe Commandramon is the one that everyone's buying up. Because that is expensive in comparison.
I'm only gonna say this because I'm hoping that the person I'm referring to does not listen to this podcast. That I posted that I was looking for some Lugamons, and then I got a DM from somebody saying, "Hey, you can, if you're interested, I'm offering them for this price." And I was like, it was $13, and I was like, that's sinful.
So much.
I could never buy a Lugamon, and it's also like I have one of them. And I was like, so you're not even solving my playset issue.
Is that around the market price or? Like on TCG Player?
It's a market price that I think right now under 10.
Okay.
But it's still not as low as I think it should be, because I think it should be at 5 right now.
Because I went to try and grab some Angemons the other day, and they hit me with a $35, please. I was like,
oh.
All right, never mind then, I guess.
I am going to say you Digimon players we're so privileged, because back when I was playing Vanguard, it'd be like your main guy in your deck, easily $15 as like a low end price.
Yeah.
How many of them?
You need 4 copies of it.
Yeah.
So, and that's just the main guy in the deck. There's more cards.
Well, so the reason I know that is because you told me, you said, Ian, please buy me 1 copy of this SR card while you're in Japan. And I said, no worries. I'll look it up and I'll buy it for you. Because, I was getting some memorabilia, just some souvenirs for us to take home.
Yeah.
And I looked up the card you sent me, and it was over $100. And I said, why are you asking me to buy this for you in Japan? It's like, a quick souvenir. You know what my budget for everyone else was? $10. You asked for $100 piece of cardboard in a game you don't play, in a language you can't legally play it in.
Am I not worth it, though?
No!
Damn!
And then he said, buy me a playset.
Welcome to the Errata Sonata podcast.
Oh, yes.
This is Noah here speaking.
This is Jeremiah.
And I'm Ian.
And we're talking about acquiring cards.
I want to be, back in the Estonian market. And then I try and do that. And I go to my local card store and they go, well, yeah, we sell singles. Here's our one of Lugamon for $13. It's like, okay, well, great.
You'll be lucky to get it for $13. They'll do the conversion, and then they'll do their premium, and then tax, and it's just like it compounds and compounds.
And you can't blame them as a business.
No,
because I get
they're not doing something wrong, but it's hard to justify buying cards from our local game store, at least singles. When I look at them and I'm like, this is such a bad deal.
Well, the other frustrating part is, that if somebody sold them the card, they got half the listed price, and they're doubling it up plus tax, and they're selling it for so much more than they got it, which is fine. Like, that's what a store does. But then you think, let's cut out the LGS. Let's cut out the local game store and just go to the person that sold it.
So one thing that frustrates me is this is a big dialogue in card. This actually might be too controversial for episode 3, or episode whatever we're on. But there's a dialogue in card game communities of don't buy cards online because you have to support your local game store. I'm like, okay, I can get where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
But then when your local game store is charging we're talking about a 30% upcharge. What is the upcharge point where you say, I would rather either A, buy from online, or what more likely I would try and do is post in my local community and say, hey, local guy, don't sell it to the card store for 50% value and then they sell it to me for a 30% markup. Just sell it to me for its actual value, and then we both, benefit.
Well, and so many people will go to bat for their local game store regardless of the kind of seedy practices, and that's the problem. Even if your local game store is giving it to you, they'll say you got to support your local game store, because without them, where would you be?
But we support our local game store when we go to tournaments. We are giving back to our local game store, and we actually we can acknowledge that we have a dynamic in our community where there are 3 game stores that are generally gone to, and one of them has great tournaments, one of them has good pricing, and one of them people don't go to.
Because it's in the heart of the city.
Because it's downtown, and you have to pay $10 for parking before you can even buy your $13 Lugamon.
Listen,
that's correct. But we're supporting those stores in different ways. One of the stores we're often buying our boxes at. One of the stores we're going to actual tournaments at.
Yep.
And I don't think that's a problem. I think we're supporting both stores. But I also think that like when it comes to buying a single, if I'm gonna get that single of Zudomon, I'm gonna post in our local Discord before I go to the local game store.
Well, it's interesting because with Digimon you have the luxury. You have 3 local game stores, you have a place that sells you singles, and you have a community where you can actively get cards from other players frequently.
At least within our
because
city.
in truth, Digimon is one of the games that I've seen a lot of people are opening sealed product, and it's nice to see.
Yeah.
And people are very, very open about, hey, you need something, let me help you out. I'll give you the card.
I'll say a lot of negative things about our community over the course of however long this podcast lasts before we get canceled. But I will say one very positive thing. Our local community is very generous and cool about, hey, you want this? Let me help you.
People know what you like. I'm the Pulsemon guy. Everyone knows I like Pulsemon and Kazuchimon. So anytime there's Kazuchimon and stuff or Rasenmon
He
stuff,
says that. I've never seen him play Pulsemon.
He play loves Kazuchimon.
I never saw him play.
Can I say one thing? I
unplayable.
know you're in the middle of saying this, but I do need to get in one piece of information because it's no, never in my life, literally not even once. I can't wait because One Piece is about to go through a price hike in a bunch of in the deck that I built, and I'm like, finally an opportunity to offload the cards of this game that I absolutely despise and regret having even a single piece of
like you
cardboard
spoke
for
about
it.
before. You're like, I'll take advantage of these people because I don't know them.
But this one, I'm scamming the people I know.
I wish I could do that with Battle Spirits.
No, but so
badly.
People in our community are so giving to the point that I own 8 Darkness Bagramons because people were like, hey, you like purple? You like Bagra Army. Take this worthless card. And they just kept giving it to me. It's like, dude, this is a secret. It's like, yeah, but it's...
Is that really the
Enjoy
sign
bouncing-
of someone being giving? Here, have my garbage.
Well, I think at the time when they were giving it to me, they thought they were all hooking me up. They were
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't need this card for any decks that I'm building. You'll appreciate it. And that kept happening. And then I opened one myself.
They're like, dude, it's a secret or it's going to be so hard for you to get.
I know. I own 8 of them. I don't know what to do with it. It's so bad. I'm literally...
Game 1, you had a playset of them.
I can't find a deck to run in. Why on earth did they print a card in a deck that has the ability to protect Tamers from deletion? Did they give it a card that said bounce all Tamers to hand? Why did it not say delete all Tamers? So that way it was like, oh, this combos with my card that protects all my Tamers.
It would be too powerful.
Then it should say delete 2 Tamers on each player's side.
They said we need to make a booster set where both secrets are unplayable. Oh wait,
What
BT8.
was the other one?
X7 Spirit Mode.
X7S.
Damn, that was a bad secret pull.
Yeah,
Same with BT8 though.
The longer I stay in the game...
But Kribimon was at least introducing something that we didn't have.
Yeah,
before.
hold on. Yeah, be nice to my boy.
The boxes where both secrets are duds feel so bad.
Well, I was going to say, the longer I stay in the game, there are secrets that are great, and I don't want to discount that. But the longer I stay in the game, the more excited I am consistently to pull an alt art than I am to pull a secret.
Same.
Like I think
unless you,
for sure.
Unless the secret is going to be relevant, like Death X.
Yes.
Ooh,
That is
a big
that
one.
is a timeless card, and I mean they're reprinting it in the future. But
Are they?
yes.
Oh, I should move my alt art.
Yeah. Well, the alt art won't be reprinted. It's a different art of the regular. But
The thing about getting secrets though, and all of this kind of thing is like, oh, this is an issue for when you're buying a box. If you're buying singles, this is less of an issue. Just in general. You look at a secret Darkness Baggermine, you're like, that's $1 card. I'm not gonna buy it. Or if I want to buy it, it's only $1 for me to pick up. But if you're buying a booster box, you spend $100 and X amount of dollars, $100 or more to get this booster box. And you're like, one of the hits I'm excited about is this dud of a card. And you pull a dud of the card, and you're like, okay, well maybe I can sell it to try to recoup some of that value from what I spent, and it's not worth the thing.
I mean, yeah, gambling sucks. Like if you don't hit the jackpot, it sucks.
We literally talked about this, where buying boxes feels good, but it's so bad.
It's so bad.
The reality is, though, I'm gonna put one out there for buying sealed product.
Sure.
A lot of times with singles, you have to wait. You have to wait to get the cards that you want,
them,
and you have to go and hunt for them. Whereas if you open the boxes, let's just say you buy 4 boxes, which is an excessive amount. Not excessive, but it's a large amount of money.
It's a large amount of money for like a single person to be dropping.
So you buy 4 boxes. Suddenly you've almost got a playset of every super rare that you could want, and maybe a couple secrets.
Yeah.
And it makes acquiring the cards so much more convenient.
That's
what it is.
It is convenient, but
sealed product is convenient.
It's convenient, but by that nature, the only time I would ever buy sealed product is during pre-release week.
Yeah, I wouldn't later on in the set be like, I'm missing this card, time to go and try buy it.
And that's, I think, the thing is that, like, that's why we have this issue where local game stores have product from like 2 sets ago or more, and they're like, we can't fucking get rid of EX2 product or EX3 product.
Yeah, no one's opening it. I mean, EX1 was classically, I remember it being seen online for $30 a box.
That's because EX1 was famously bad product. Like, the cards inside of it were not high value. And when I say high value, I mean they're not powerful. They're not strong cards.
But it's such a collector's item.
It was such a fun set.
It was a fun set.
I think EX1 is my favorite EX set.
It's very fun, contained within itself, and I think a lot of EX sets are like that. Yeah. But they didn't provide that much to other decks. Yeah. There were a few good cards.
I want to shout out one of my favorite cards to be printed.
Ever.
Which is EX1 Tentomon.
Not Ogremon.
Not Ogremon. I love Ogremon too, but we've shouted out Ogremon a lot. I think EX1 Tentomon is a really fun design space, where it's when attacking, next time you would Digivolve into an insect, reduce the Digivolve cost by 1, not once per turn. So if you unsuspend and reswing, you're now saying my next Digivolve is reduced by 2 into an insect. And like, I think that's really cool design space for a deck that was, and Insect was originally designed to be the green's big swingy, big stompy deck. Wait. Swing into a creature, unsuspend, swing into another creature.
Oh, I get what you're saying. If you swing, unsuspend, and then Digivolve. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Which I think is cool. I mean, you could also unsuspend when Digivolving, but the point is, it's just like, it's a non-once per turn. It's Digivolve reduction, but it functions as a memory gain. Yeah. And non-once per turn memory gain effects, to me, are always really cool, because they expand the design space of how your cards work. Diaboromons, Kurisarimon, memory gain. The awful Angemon, that's when attacking, if you have 4 or less security, gain memory. That Tentomon for Digivolve purposes.
When did that Tentomon come out?
EX1.
What was that, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, in December.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you like it so much, because that is the last Tentomon we got.
No, it's not.
That is the most recent Tentomon.
That's crazy. Brutal. I love Tentomon, so that's crazy to hear.
Yeah. EX1 Tentomon was the last 2 years ago.
Can I challenge?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to challenge.
This is exciting. There was a countdown for a while. I think it reached like 160 days since a Tentomon from release to reveal. That is BT15.
Yeah, we will be getting a new Tentomon shortly.
In February or March, new Tentomon.
That's so painful. I love Tentomon, I actually didn't know I didn't know that.
We only have 4 Tentomons in the game total. How insane is
that? And he's a fan favorite.
I don't know if he is. I love him, but I don't know if he's a fan favorite.
I love him.
Everyone that I've spoken to in the community loves Tentomon.
All right,
that makes it a little bit anecdotal, but
even my brother, who doesn't really remember a lot of, like I said before, we've not grown up a lot on.
Let's be fair. He's an original 8.
Yeah,
that alone
makes
is
him popular.
Makes him. It makes it so there should be enough of him that you're like, there's more Biyomon than Tentomon, and everyone likes Tentomon more than Biyomon.
Yeah,
you can't be a self-respecting individual.
Honestly,
and say, I like Biyomon
when I look
better.
at Biyomon, I get why he threw up in her hat.
Okay,
spoilers, dude.
That's okay.
I want to say something about Tentomon, because my introduction to the game was the green starter deck, and when I saw the cards, I immediately loved the art. I think the Tentomon card is sipping a drink, and the Kabuterimon is lifting weights.
Yeah,
and it's such good art. I love it.
Yeah, you already know I'm a big cat.
You know, I have the judge pack of that.
Yes,
Kabuteri.
yeah, and then I played the game, and I was playing it wrong. Like we did not fully understand.
I still play it wrong.
We didn't understand the rules though. I was doing on plays when I Digivolve because I was playing a card.
Yeah.
Immediately the next day, I went out and bought starter decks and a box for my own, because I was borrowing that starter deck. That's how much I fell in love with this game immediately.
Yeah.
And then
I'm so sorry for you. That sucks.
Wait, but you're saying you fell in love with green as well?
Yes.
It's so funny that I
played green for months after
Green's
that.
very accessible. Because I started with purple, but I competitively started with green because I was like, the things I was trying to do with purple weren't working. I don't think I had been exposed to Lilith Loop yet.
And it's funny because we mentioned how in Hearthstone I enjoyed that I can just swing into anything I want. I don't have to wait for something to be suspended, or I don't have to directly attack the player. And green kind of gave me access to that.
Now hold on. Now what if you skipped a step and you said, I'm BT8 Metal Greymon. I don't need to suspend your card.
That's exactly.
I'll just swing over.
But that didn't exist yet. But that is exactly the kind of gameplay I wanted.
Can I say that card frustrates me because they looked at Green's design space and they said, "Oh, turn the card sideways from being unsuspended, so this way you can get over it." And they said, "No, skip the suspending it. Just go over it." It's just ridiculous.
Well, I mean that actually. So red has often had like weird overlap with green in that sense because like swinging to unsuspended is definitely some overlap, and then also I find that Blitz and EX1's Digivolve when attacking for insects are the exact same design space.
Yeah, there's a lot of green cards that say this Digimon may attack. Yeah. Which is like if you look at Chaosmon. Chaosmon's when Digivolve in effect is this Digimon may attack an unsuspended Digimon.
Yeah.
Which is essentially Blitz into Digimon.
Well, I think it's because like so if I was to compare it to Magic, like red in concept, I think was the design space that it should have filled should have been like the rookie rush, like, you know, we're bringing out a bunch of guys punching. Almost like Marcus actually kind of fits it, like swinging in with a small guy. But then both red and green function as big stacks that swing in for big damage.
Yep.
And the distinction is what? Green is supposed to swing over creatures originally, but didn't. And then now red pierces creatures, so it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Red and green have always had piercing.
Yeah.
And this is why I've talked about before. Digimon does not have clear design goals, or at least design goals that are clearly communicated with the cards. You have an idea, but then they release a card that directly contradicts what they're doing, and you're like, why did you bother going this route with the design?
Maybe you're just not smart enough to understand their big brains.
Maybe I'm not.
I know you.
Maybe this is a conversation that's not worth going into.
I know you've mentioned that you want the designers to get on a podcast together and share their thoughts.
I just want some communication. They don't post a single thing about like, all right, we're making BT BT 16. Okay, here's our goal with partition.
They could be, and you wouldn't know it. They're all Japanese.
But why doesn't the English version do it?
But they don't. The English people at Bandai don't make the cards.
Could they not just translate it?
No, I think it's fair. Asking for translated patch notes is not that big of an ask.
I just want them to talk about where we're going with design with this card game. This is why we're doing certain things. I want to look at the Pulsemon deck and understand why they're making each card different colors.
I think that a lot of it is inherently understood. Like, we can look at the ban list and say, this is what they're trying to address. Yeah. And actually, to be fair, they actually do make notes on the ban list.
They make those statements on the ban list. Why can't you do that with cards?
Because why do you need them to walk you through their card designs? Like, if I see cards, I can think, this is what they're trying to do. Also, what else can I do with these cards? But you want them to lay it out step by step.
I want them to explain why they decided to look at BT8 Metal Greymon and say, this is just trouncing over Green's identity.
I don't think it fully is.
You still get benefits from suspending.
The main issue I have with BT8 Metal Greymon's list of effects is because it's so long. It's de-digivolve, it's delete something, it's swing into unsuspended. That is a lot for one card to carry.
Yeah, but costing 4 at that point in the game was also a lot.
That's true. It was an expensive card at the time, and then we got Greymon X, which said, all right, now do it for 2.
We didn't get Greymon X until, 3 sets later?
3 sets later.
It was a good chunk of time. Almost a year.
Yeah.
So we got Metal Greymon in the summer, and then we didn't get Greymon X until January.
I think we've talked about this privately a few times, but the reality is that de-digivolve is such a powerful effect.
It's so incredible.
I think it's just the design space of delete is because it's a lot more binary. Like, either I do a delete effect or I don't do a delete effect. It is hard for purple to have that flexibility. Whereas, black de-digivolve one, that is stealing a turn from your opponent often.
Yeah.
Or same thing with like yellow DP minus. It's like, well, it's flexible. Either I would always rather have minus 3k than delete a 3k on field. Yeah. Because minus 3k, it also means that I can swing over them. It could mean that I'm going to stack effects with another card. I just think that like red and purple kind of have the short end of the stick with just the only thing being delete because the design space has to be so limited for it.
And to be fair, back in the day, de-digivolve was highly... It was balanced properly. Like, it's not like de-digivolve was cheap and easy to get. Look at Babungamon. De-digivolve at level 4 or lower, and it's Digiburst 2, which is making it cost a lot more than what we have now.
Yeah, and I think during that set with Babungamon, or maybe a bit before, but there was a lot of cards that gave Digiburst 2 to functionally delete a 3K.
They were definitely experimenting with Digiburst.
Which I like. I actually really enjoyed Digiburst as a mechanic, because like, even though I love inheritables, the ability for you to say, I'm going to sacrifice my inheritables to get value right now, that's exactly what I'm saying when I say that I want cards to have multiple avenues of value or design space. Yeah. Having a Digiburst says, I'm going to take away my inheritables, but get a reward.
That's what I'm saying, is like, now they're making it so you look at stack decks that are just so powerful, and they're just, there's no downside to them.
No,
there's not a lot of downside to them. They say, oh, you have to be the most powerful Greymon, you have to play all the Greymons. You go, damn.
I'll tell you what you need to be the most powerful Greymon. You have to have Greymon or Omnimon in name.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? About cards being able to just say, like, by the way, also this is your name.
Well, it's funny because we have a card that turns other cards into tokens, white tokens.
Yeah.
And it changes their name too.
Yes.
Like, such as Sukamon.
Yeah.
But if you target Gaiomon with that, it's still named Sukamon and Black War Greymon. Because it keeps the name, because it's part of its text.
Oh, interesting. So because that's written on the card,
yep,
its name is still Black War Greymon.
Right.
That's awful.
I know, it's weird.
That's really bad design space. I like, because those that text is specifically written in a way where it's like, it's not like an all turns effect. It's like, this is fundamental to this card, because it happens in Raising as well, right?
Yes.
So why?
Yeah, well, they've changed it up now where they have a little black box that says rule.
Yeah.
So I guess to clarify that more, that's recent. I don't think we've gotten that yet, but it's just it bums me out, because when I think of turning something into a token, I want like a polymorph.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to lose all its effects. That might be strong in Digimon, but
well, there is.
I don't think it's any stronger in Digimon than it is in other games.
Well, there's a magic equivalent to that, which is like exile it for the turn, and at the beginning of your next turn, it will return to field.
Yeah. Would you say that equivalent of polymorph? Would you say that you're polymorphing the card on top and all of its inheritables, or you're polymorphing the card but it gets its inheritables?
What I was just suggesting was, I think that you should be picking up the stack and moving it off the table and replacing it with a token.
Yeah.
And returning it next turn.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
The issue is I think that presents a it almost creates like an out of game like location that has to exist. Yeah. And Digimon doesn't
already have 5 of those.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is we don't currently have like an exile zone. So it's like, we don't know we want to create a new zone. Stop it. You love exile.
I want exile so bad.
No, deletion is the only removal the game should have.
No.
I want my on delete triggers.
I respect the fact that they looked at each color and went, this is your form of removal. But green, they just said, it's okay, you can just attack over them.
Yeah, which like battle is your removal.
Yeah. It's obviously not very strong, but it can also be very strong.
But green does have some bottom deck cards. So you're like, are they getting bottom deck, or are they getting swing over?
They got bottom deck pretty early.
The best, you gotta think.
They also had freeze. Remember, green used to be the freeze color.
But they're not anymore.
No. Well, they have Quartzmon.
I mean, blue and green kind of share that same design space. Because
Imperial Dramon.
Blue was freeze, and then green was freeze. And blue was bottom deck, and then green was bottom deck. And they kind of both green just kind of steals blue stuff. But that's fine. But they work together.
This is, again, a thing where I'd like them to talk about why blue and green are similar in the color wheel. Why these?
Well, I think effects are often paired, because I think that trash is black and purple. I do think that they come in pairs, like red and yellow. I think that black and purple have a lot of shared mechanics. I think that blue and green have a lot of shared mechanics.
That's more to do with Digimon as opposed to mechanics, though.
But if I think about Magic and how they clearly illustrate, like, these two colors are opposite. Black and white are complete opposites in the color wheel, therefore they should do very different things. However, when you put them together, this is their shared design space.
I like that. I guess that's true. The joint color cards have a consistency of effects, whereas like in Digimon, it often goes like, oh, Shakuamon, you're going to recover and you're going to bounce. You're going to do a blue effect and a yellow effect. And it's like, it's not a combination of effects. It's like, just do one of each.
Yeah.
Paildramon just bottom decks is 6k or lower.
Okay, just
which again is blue
which
and
is blue
green.
And green mechanic.
But if you look at Shikuamon, it recovers one.
And then it checks recovery. Yeah,
to bounce something, which is a yellow mechanic and a blue mechanic.
Yeah, I will be fair that I think that Shikuamon may not have been the idealized example of it. And also I think that Shikuamon is probably my favorite DNA Digivolve card.
Well, like look at Gold Vizramon as well. It does a negative DP effect, and then it checks your DP, and based on if you're 6k or lower, it'll stun you, which is a blue effect. Like, I think they're pretty on the nose with them mixing colors together.
I guess what it happens is that in Digimon, we'll get often like individual cards that will link colors, but within something, within other card games, it'll often be like, hey, we're going to make a mixed color tribe that will have a unique identity that like, so like if I was to use those examples, I would have a whole deck based around Shakuamon's like, oh, I'm going to have a bunch of blue mechanics that are always going to be dependent on security. And I'd be able to build a whole deck into that.
Yeah.
What often happens in Digimon is they'll release a package, which is going to be like 4 or 5 cards.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to slide that package into a deck that may be blue and yellow, but realistically it often ends up being either a blue deck or a yellow deck.
Yeah.
And then those cards are just like, oh, if this condition is met, great.
Well, that's what I asked you today about Greymon, where Greymon's a red and black deck, but like, why? How do they share that design space? And what does it play more like? It plays more like a black deck. You have a big blocker, and you're removing stuff.
You're talking about Black War Greymon, though, which are black cards, and you're mixing it with War Greymon, which are red cards, and then that's why you get that red.
We might be we might be somewhat contrary to where we started, because unfortunately, Greymon is also not a great example, because I think that Greymon as a deck does achieve both red and black effects, and more importantly than both, a Greymon deck is very clearly a Greymon deck. It is not like, you can't consider a Greymon deck something that is not.
I think, yeah, but I feel like the support that's come out recently for Greymon, ever since they've really honed in, like, okay, we're red and black. I'm saying specifically like the BT12 stuff is very on the nose. We have blocker, and we have
protection. We have trash security. We have
yeah. It's very on the nose.
Almost the only red effects that are ever in contention are sometimes Blitz, but that's not used anymore because people use the X antibody in order to do a when attacking Digivolve, which is just any color.
Yeah.
And then sometimes security boost.
Well, Raid too, which is pretty relevant.
That's true.
That's something
isn't Raid always dual color?
No,
Raid, I guess it did start in red.
Raid is a red mechanic.
It's a newer red mechanic.
Again, this is another thing. You look at Raid, you say this is Red's answer to dealing with unsuspended cards. Red's answer to dealing with unsuspended cards was always just picking them and deleting them. So now they look at Green and they say, Green, you look at unsuspended cards and you have to turn them sideways to swing over them. Red just goes, oh, I get to delete them or I get to swing at them. I swing at your security and then I move over to attack the guy.
I think the issues that we're identifying is like there's some of it is, lack of clarity in the color wheel within Digimon.
Yes.
I think it's also largely just specifically Green having this struggle.
Green is Green's identity.
Green has just don't unsuspend now.
It's
a lot stronger than it used to be.
Yeah. Suspension in Green has become a lot bigger part of its identity. For a while, reducing Digivolve cost was a bigger part of its identity, but it feels like every time they want to hit a card, they say, let's hit another card that reduces Digivolve cost.
Because it's a strong effect.
It's a very
so
good effect.
good. I mean, look at all the trainings. Look at all the training cards.
Yeah,
everybody's running trainings now.
I will say, I do like that they looked at Green, they said, this is just a strong mechanic. You know what would make this feel less egregious in specifically Green? What if we gave it to everybody? Mm-hmm. And I'm mostly okay with that, but I still think the trading cards are a little bit too good for everybody to be using in such high frequency.
Yeah.
They are cards that are going to be auto-includes in, I'd say, a strong number, 80% of decks.
None of I'm the 20%. I don't want them in any of the decks that I play, which is so upsetting because I
Blue
want
Flare and Blue Hybrid.
I want to play them in Blue Hybrid or Bond of Friendship. But the fact that you can't use them to go into Tamers is so upsetting.
It is true. It's really weird that they're like, okay, reduce your Digivolution costs the next time you Digivolve by 2. And then they're like, not for this type, though.
For the sake of non-Digimon players, I will say, because they're great cards, it's pay 2 to search 2 cards and choose one of them as long as it matches the color. Mm-hmm. And then, on a future turn, reduce Digivolve cost by 2. So you paid 2, searched 2, and then you'll essentially gain 2 later.
It is a very interesting concept to think in context to another card game. Those cards would also be very, very good.
Yeah.
But translated to Digimon, I would say that they're even better.
bringing up train boosts is another good talk about availability because everybody wants these train boosts. And they came as box hoppers with one of every color, which is great because you'd think there'd be a lot more supply.
Oh, could you imagine if it was one of any training boost?
I was scared.
For the box?
That would be terrifying.
They would be terrible. They'd be easily $20 cards.
Yeah.
I hate the emotion that I'm having where I'm like, I could pay $500 Canadian and get a playset of all the trainings and then all these additional other cards.
You got a bunch of cards, yeah. That's buying 5 boxes.
But that... no, I have 4 boxes.
4 boxes.
Hold up, buddy. Hold up. But yeah, and it's like, I hate that that's a feeling. And it's like, if I break it down and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go buy my playset of each training. They're selling for about $4 to $5. I'll overprice them and say, let's say $5, $20 a training. That's
$100 for you to have a playset?
That is
120.
rough. Dude, you really struggle with your math.
Yeah, dude, you're not good at math.
Well, I was only thinking of like, I'm in Magic head right now, 5 colors.
We have 6 different trainings.
The point is like, yeah, it's a really rough like state where I'm like, availability is a big question.
Yeah.
Price stability is a big question. Like, I don't want to be treating it like an investment if it's going to drop later. It's kind of making me scared to buy it right now. And then I'm like, also I have to buy all this other stuff. And I'm like, how much is it going to add up to? And the reality is if I add up every single thing I wanted and I went out and bought it, I'd probably pay less than $200. But the availability again.
It's hard to go and find them in your local community.
I have to order them. It helps that you know you're getting the trainings with the box. Because if you evaluate them at $5 each color, and there's 6 colors, that's $30 just tucked inside the top of your box.
It's nice.
Yeah.
That helps at least, but for a lot of times you're not guaranteed that.
There's also a lot of players that don't touch other colors. I'm very avid on my yellow, my green, and my red. Play those 3 colors.
Half the colors.
I will.
You know what's funny?
I'm a loyalist. I play half the colors of the game.
It's funny because Jeremiah used to only play one deck. And he mentioned this earlier. He said, I want to play one deck and I want to play it till I die. And I said, what if you want to play a different deck? And he said, well, then I'll figure it out. And that's the issue, right? Is when you go to figure it out, some cards are just impossible.
Some cards are impossible. And also there's just like, it's like you're starting out as a new player for the first time where you go, oh shit, I don't have any legacy cards. And like, that's why, like, so as I said, I have tried my best for sets 1 through 12 to have a playset of every card. And like, that's very helpful. Whenever I want to build any deck, that's like a huge starting point.
Yeah.
The issue is power creep exists. We've for a long time had boosts, memory boosts, which are search for cards, grab one of the correct color. That's a Digimon, so it's restrictive.
Yeah.
And it costs 3 mana, and on a future turn, you gain 2 mana.
Yeah.
So pay 3, search for 1, later gain 2. As opposed to what it is now, which is pay 2, search 2, gain 2.
Yeah.
That is a huge power creep on like an individual card. Mm-hmm. Especially because when I say search for, it's search for with a restriction. This is really search 2 without a restriction.
This is excavate 2 cards for any card you want.
Yeah. That's huge.
Including itself.
It is very
including
good.
itself. I often grab itself and then play it again.
It's so fun to loop it. It feels great.
It's wild too that card is like it's saying you don't gain 2 memory, but really you got to treat it as gain 2 memory.
It really is.
So often you do feel like it's gain 2 memory, but then there's
situations it's not. We have to play an option card from hand.
Yeah, or even the other day, I was at 3 memory and I wanted to play something that costs 4 and keep my turn, and I have 2 training boosts on field, and they were useless. I'm looking at them and I'm like, these are garbage to me.
I do think that they are more restrictive, and it is not truly a gain 2, but
they're still very good.
It's so powerful. In the majority of situations, it is gain 2. Maybe this is my bias as a purple player. Listen, I've got enough gain memory effects.
Yeah.
Like, I need some reduced Digivolve effects.
Maybe it's because these cards are you get 1 of each per box that they feel unattainable because everyone wants them and they're only available in that facet.
Yeah, I think almost everybody who buys a box is keeping their trainings.
Because do you remember when the memory boost came out and those were a starter deck, right?
Yeah.
So a starter deck, sure, you may not need the full starter deck, but it came with 2 copies.
No, it came with 1. But if you bought, there were 2 starter decks, so you could be like, just buy 2 copies of each starter deck, which in Digimon you have to do.
Yeah.
If you want the playset.
Which is again another thing that.
Oh, accessibility! It's so bad.
We don't. But for the sake of just the memory.
Also, for the sake of Magic players, I'll say that Digimon starter decks have unique cards that you can't find in booster boxes.
Which is
almost entirely unique cards.
a large majority.
They are. Sometimes they'll reprint something in the starter deck.
I think Beelzemon is the only one that had reprinted cards in it.
Yeah, as like part of his
They
actual.
had a Hammer Spark and Gaia Force in the Gallantmon VMon.
Yeah.
Those are still unique starter deck cards.
Yeah. Anyways, Jeremiah, you were saying.
You buy 4 starter decks. They're priced approximately $20 Canadian each.
Yeah.
So that's an investment of $80 to get your two fully built starter decks. So you get your full play sets of all the exclusive cards.
Yeah. Good math this time.
And then you're getting all of your memory boosts, 4 copies for each color.
Yeah.
Which is way less than what you were saying earlier, which is I'll spend $500 to buy 4 booster boxes.
Well, but
to get all my trainings and all this other stuff.
You do get a lot of other stuff too. And when you look at the cost of Commandromons and Patamons and other cards, this is one of those sets where it almost feels like you're reaching the point.
It's almost worth it.
Which is something I mentioned beforehand, because you don't just get the trainings on top. You get the promo and you get another box topper.
But you're looking at
and the starter deck with it too.
Yeah.
You're spending
If every SR is worth $10, then it is worth it.
Yep.
But the thing is like, we know they shouldn't be worth $10. We've seen past sets. We know what they usually settle at. It's like these SRs should be dropping down faster than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that like, I don't have an answer as to why they're staying high right now. Is it just power creep because they're good?
We can never understand the market.
a lot of people just want. I feel like a lot of people just want to play the new decks. Like the new decks are very attractive.
Yeah.
There's nostalgia to them. They're also newer.
That's
playstyles.
true. We are in a heavy nostalgia set.
Yes.
That's true.
It's a nostalgia based set, and it's
No Tentamon though.
there's no Tentamon, and the next one not very good. But they have a lot of these nostalgia cards. They also have the shiny new thing, the new Digimon new Digimon Seeker story that they're advertising with this set as well. People want to play these new cards. People want access to them, do new things. We've also been playing this current format, the BT13 format, for
A while.
3 months, 4 months,
Almost 5.
almost 5 months.
It was a good meta though.
I had fun. It's a good meta for sure.
And I didn't play Shine.
I mean, I took time away from it personally, but I can respect that people really liked it. The fact of the matter is, a 5-month-long set with the same card pool, people are going to look at these new cards in a different way.
I guess we are going from it's a very big shift in card landscape.
But I will say, I don't feel that addresses why the cards are more expensive, because a lot of those reasons point to more people wanting to buy the cards.
More people wanting to open boxes, which means it should drive the price down of singles because they're more available.
So
on average.
so what we're saying then, if this is the
He's
situation
saying that
we're
people
in,
are keeping more cards, I think.
I know. But if this is the situation we're in, clearly more people are buying singles than they are buying product, because there's more demand than supply if the prices are this high. So people are keeping cards and they're buying singles. If the supply is that low, is it right to buy singles right now?
It might not be. But personally,
it feels like it's always right to buy singles.
But the problem is, like, if you're not looking at buying singles and you're looking at it the way Ian was saying, $500, that is a pricey investment to a game.
And I think the reality
for
is,
it to just get another set.
The reality is enough players are going to play the way Jeremiah talks about playing, which is to say, I'm going to build my deck and that's it. Mm-hmm. And if they say that, I mean, I'm looking into building out Yellow Vaccines. I'm looking at the prices for my friend right now. He is probably going to spend, starting from nil, under $150 to get not only everything he needs for the deck, but also a ton of older common, uncommon rares to just get him a leg up to start on the idea of deck building, the idea of like thinking about the game in a deeper level.
It's like we were talking about before, where you have your net deck and then you take a couple cards and you kind of fiddle around with it, make adjustments.
And so for him, paying that $150 makes a lot more sense than paying the $500 to get play sets of just this set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the set.
But if you are the kind of person that wants to experiment with a bunch of different decks, at least this set, it almost feels like you're compelled to just buy the boxes.
But we're just not in this set for long enough.
We're not.
If we were going from 5-month set to another 5-month set, I'd be like, okay, well maybe I just rip the cord. But here we're going 5-month set to a 2-month set.
These these new super rare rookies are kind of defining some of the meta, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to be around for a while, especially them being the only ones. Like the original 8 adventure rookies plus the Commandramon, they are, and Lugamon, I guess.
Yeah.
But they are the first super rare rookies, and we're getting them in conjunction with BT16. And then we don't know if we're getting any more. So these are going to be good until we get more,
for
right?
a long time.
Like
they're gonna
Gomamon
be
is
good
just
cards.
generically a good blue card.
Yeah.
And same with Palmon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patamon isn't generically good yellow, but almost every yellow is vaccine,
I mean,
so
yeah.
it might as well.
No,
be.
I actually think that Lugamon is the highest drop off likelihood because it is very tribal to dark animals.
Exactly, yeah.
And
I guess Commandramon. too.
Commandramon is also very.
but Commandramon we know is going to continue getting support. Whereas
Commandramon's
I think,
always been relevant.
I think dark animals like has a lot of ebb and flow.
Yeah.
I said this earlier that it seems like black decks have gotten pretty consistent. Like these are our tribes. We're gonna keep going back to those same few tribes.
Which is Machine, Alpha, D Brigade, and that's pretty much
I think
it.
that's it for black.
I mean, Legend Arms, but like, come on, guys.
No, but Legend Arms is first of all, it's a dual color,
They also haven't gotten support for a long time.
and they also haven't gotten support for a long time. They really got their starter deck, and then
They got their
stopped.
starter deck. They got one card in the booster set of that starter deck era as well.
Yeah.
They got one card. That is
Yeah,
so
Spatamon.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Well,
Brutal.
yeah. Oh, Diaboromon. It's a black deck, even though
it's
it's
a black.
white
You're
card.
right. You're right.
is-
It is for considering how much I love Diaboromon. I should shout it out. But the reality that I'm feeling is Diaboromon got one card now.
In, like,
it has not been updated in 8 sets.
Yeah. And it's just like it's like looking at generic cards that come out. It's like when I look at a card that says suspend itself, I'm like, this could be used in Shivamon. That doesn't mean it's like made for Shivamon.
Yeah, and
It's
I
not
don't,
like a card.
and I don't think Diaboro has that love because unfortunately, like there are building the deck right now. I'm like, oh, there's a couple good generic black cards that I'm going to use, but the reality is, for the longest time, Diaboromon was hyper tribal.
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like in order to go into these other generic good staple cards, I'm kind of eating away at what defined a Diaboromon deck for the majority of its life. And that feels abnormal, and it feels abnormal that like a fan favorite Digimon that has been around since the beginning of Digimon, almost like Tentomon, one might say.
Go back.
Go back.
to the beginning.
But we're just in a really awkward state where I think that quite a few decks don't get the support that they need. You're right that with regards to this set, we need to decide what is the best way to purchase it. And we kind of need to decide now because, again, we're actually, I think, already past the window that I would have really considered dropping that $500.
It's a big ask for like $500 for one expansion of cards.
I think what's most likely is I'm probably going to buy up my play sets of the training because I think they're generically good
They're
enough.
just good, yeah.
And then I will, from there, get the SRs that I actually care about getting.
Yeah, I was also gonna say this is slowly becoming a situation that's similar to Vanguard, and I don't know if Noah's familiar, but you're familiar with how they had 22 different colors,
Yes.
functionally 22 different colors that got varying waves of support. So you'd be playing decks like Tachikaze that was not a big fan favorite, and they get support once every year. And you're like, finally, new cards, and they're like, not good.
Yeah.
And you would never buy a booster box
And
of that set, so you skip a lot of sets.
Didn't Vanguard have monthly set release?
Maybe not monthly.
But it was a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because they did micro sets that were not micro, but they did sets where only a few decks got support.
Yes, it would be like 3 clans.
Imagine if Digimon was like, oh, set 15, only black, yellow support.
That's exactly what it is. I'd see a new set announced, and I'd be like, oh, Narukami. Oh, I didn't get any cards.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I don't care.
Yeah, and Vanguard was extremely like restricted, right?
You literally cannot run something outside of your clan unless there's a rule specifically allowing you to. It's bad.
Which I really dislike. Coming from Magic and then playing Digimon, the fact that I can say, you can run this card, even if it's off color, you just have to find a way to work it into the deck, feels great.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You're looking at Metal Greymon from BT12, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, maybe this could fit in a more generic black deck.
Yeah.
Because it plays a black
Dude,
team.
come on. You can't tell people about Diaboromon before we
you
get
can
there.
play Arata Sonata, in with Metal Greymon, and you're like, this is a really cool way to cheat out a tamer and get a removal option. But in something like Vanguard, you're not doing that. So and it's a structure that didn't work, but they kept it for so long. And then they moved into a more 5-color generic format. Whereas I feel like Digimon, they're like, okay, we're doing more generic stuff at the start, and now they're moving towards, this is a tribal game. We're doing all the black cards this set. This is all Greymon.
Yeah.
It is a little bit sad because when you think about the theme of Digimon, or at least thematically behind it, it wasn't Agumon goes to Greymon, goes to Metal Greymon, goes to War Greymon every time like Pokemon. You could mix and match and branch out.
And lines.
As we get more tribal, you're being forced into these lines instead of getting to have the Digimon experience, which was, what do I want to go into this time?
Well, I literally looked at because I was rebuilding Shine Greymon, and Geo Greymon got hit down to 1, so now you have 9 ideal Geo Greymons to play, and I was like, okay, so I guess I'm just playing 9 Geo Greymons because like I don't want to experiment with anything else because I feel like obligated to play the Geo Greymon.
Yeah.
But that's sad because the deck could have different lines that you put in, could have different champions that you want to add in now that you're restricted. But the reality is they're not Geo Greymon, so they don't work with the rest of your stuff.
I think I complained about this earlier on the podcast. I do want more generic design. I do want more staples. I do want just more like decks to be designed around the idea of, hey, I can go into multiple lines.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the direction that Bandai seems to want to go. No. It doesn't seem like the direction they want to go in Digimon. It also just doesn't seem like the direction that Bandai likes to go in general. I think it makes it harder to release cards. I think One Piece didn't have it. You can comment probably on Dragon Ball if Dragon Ball was flexible.
Dragon Ball was for a bit, but they also moved towards like, if your leader is this guy, then you get this effect.
Yeah. So
but I liked playing a deck that was like, it's a red deck, you play a red card, give it 5,000 power, and then you draw a card if it hits over 20k.
Yeah.
So the idea was like you can just play a bunch of good red stuff, and I like that. And then you could work in archetypes into playing that with your leader.
You could design your deck more.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
I was reading somebody comment the other day that if you don't have archetypes like this, it forces every single deck to be just one kind of deck of good stuff, which I completely disagree with. As much I like toolbox decks, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. But I think the idea that the best toolbox deck of a color will always just be the best deck for that color is wrong if we don't have archetypes. Because there is just, if you have more generic cards, there's more experimentation.
It's just, you have, first of all, it allows you to do more dynamic deck building and moving into different, like, archetypes of decks. Like, I would love to see a red control deck. Are we ever going to get that? Not if it's not Greymon.
And even if it is, the reality is that the only red removal is deletion, and that is the one with the most protection for it.
Well, we got Raid now too.
It's just like
which is pretty powerful because there isn't a lot of delete by. I mean, okay, that's wrong. There's a decent amount of delete by battle protection.
You need the Garurumon name,
but a lot of the relevant decks in this moment don't have delete by battle protection.
Yeah, and like the truth is, if you had more generic stuff, you could be like, I'm building a red control deck, or like with purple, and you're like, I want to play mill. So anytime they release something that's like trash from the top of your opponent's deck or do something to interact with another piece that does that, you get a new card.
This is what I'm saying. Everybody else has their own, cheat ways to get around deletion protection. Give purple the one it deserves. Trash from field.
So it's not deleted. It's trashed.
I want to clarify something here, and that's... I don't hate that we have archetypes in the game.
No.
I think having archetypes is good.
That's great.
I don't want it to only be archetypes.
Yep.
I want us to have that freedom to say, I want to play a Greymon deck, or I want to have some good generic red cards and make a red deck.
I think that the way that we do that is we stop checking for names.
Yeah.
The reality is checking for names or checking for traits is really frustrating. Has Greymon in name? I don't want that in my life.
I literally look at half the cards and I go, does this say what I want it to? It does not. It is useless.
Yeah.
I will not know this card.
Throw it out. I don't want to look at it.
I will never touch it. And that's the truth is when you guys say like, oh, let's buy a booster box and let's take a look at all these different cards that I can get. And I'm like, half of them are not relevant to me.
I'm going to say something. Here's a card. Here's a card that is hyper tribal, but it is written in a way that it could not be tribal if there was, deck ideas that worked for it. And the answer is Kurisarimon. when you play a Digimon with the same name as this Digimon,
Yep.
trigger effect.
Yep.
So it's like Diaboromon's creating a bunch of tokens that say Diaboromon. So
Yeah.
it's clearly designed for that. But that way that text is written is exactly how I want all these cards to be written.
Yeah.
To just say, hey, one, we might make new cards that could come back and use this card's idea. If there's an Eosmon deck that can go off of black, then that would start to matter.
Yeah.
Well, that I was gonna bring that up because that's a deck that plays a lot of Eosmon, right?
Yeah.
And you could put Kurosaurimon in there and tuck it with Chimeramon.
Yeah.
Which is I've seen people do that. And
It's an idea, but it's
it's
a lot
funny.
of work.
It's a lot of work, but the fact that you can do the work, that you can do it,
Yeah.
I think is great. And I think that the way that Agumon line is designed doesn't allow you to do it, even if you put in the work.
But Kurosaurimon and Chimeramon, BT8 Chimeramon are older cards. This is cards that had that old, like, we're not as tribal kind of idea in there.
No, but you gotta look at the bones. The bones are good,
Strong,
man.
we got
The
strong
bones.
bones.
Yeah, the
Skull Greymon, baby.
Digimon drinking milk.
they started off at a good spot, and we kind of moved where it's just archetypes.
They got scared.
Yeah.
They got really scared of the idea of us using cards and designing decks in ways that they hadn't planned.
I can't believe you're gonna play a Rada Sonata with Metal Greymon.
Listen, it's real.
How could you?
Dude,
You know what?
I can't wait to raid, use our quick red effect before I go into my Diaboromon and then spawn an additional token.
That's
And
pretty good.
the problem is that they are more or less right to be scared. If you look at Blue Flare, they clearly did not intend for you to use Security plus Greymon
It's a purely red card.
And it's so
with a
good.
blue card.
And it's
and
so
so
good.
when they made a new Metal Greymon, they specified Blue Greymon. And so you have to look at them and say, okay, clearly you don't want to playtest or think about what these cards are going to do. So they're trying to make it as restrictive as possible to prevent us from doing the things that they don't want us to
I
do.
mean, it's my conversation with the BT16 Pulsemon cards, where they looked at Pulsemon and they say, you're a yellow deck, and they say all of your level 5s can digivolve from yellow, but they're all different colors.
Yeah.
So you cannot digivolve the old Kazuchimon, which is specifically designed with Pulsemon's whole gimmick of being at 3 security.
Yeah.
You cannot do that on top of these cards.
You have to accept that it's a different design space.
I know, but it's maddening.
You have to accept that. You can't say, that's like you getting upset that Black War Greymon plays differently than Red War Greymon.
You can still run the cards.
Yeah.
You could still run those cards in Pulsemon, but you would get frustrated because you can't digivolve Kazuchimon.
I don't
off
know
of
that that's
those.
a fair comparison because there are enough multicolor Metal Greymons that you could very easily just have them in the
Now
same space.
over multiple sets. This is the first set.
But Pulsemon has had a lot of sets of support.
Kazuchimon,
No, it hasn't.
Kazuchimon,
There's green and yellow Pulsemons for quite a while.
Yeah, but the green Pulsemon. Oh, don't even
That's
get
a
started,
security
man.
rookie. We just got it.
No, not just security one. There's also
There's a green
there's
Pulsemon in BT8.
Yeah.
because that's when they said we're
Shivamon.
doing Shivamon.
Right.
But they said Shivamon and Kazuchimon are two separate guys. We're not mixing their playstyles.
So we hadn't started doing that tribalism yet. We had actually just started with Vmon armors. They hadn't started doing it with Pulsemon. So if you're saying that BT8 is the last Pulsemon support we got, then I don't think that's a valid
because
argument.
then they did Achillesmon in BT10, who was both green and yellow, but wanted to do the yellow gimmick and had almost nothing to do with the green side of things.
Right.
It's just weird. It's just weird that they're looking at this whole old set of
I'll
support.
my main expression is just I think it is frustrating when they print cards that mostly just check for name, whether whether it's digivolving up into a card and this card can only digivolve from X name to be off color. What is the Hawkmon?
Sylphimon?
No.
Aquilamon?
No, the level 4.
Halsamon.
Halsamon digivolves only from blue or Hawkmon.
Yeah, that was BT8
That's
too.
infuriating.
And it does like a specifically red thing. Too.
Yes,
It's like
or
delete something.
or the opposite direction, where it's Agumon inheritables that only trigger if you have Greymon in name or Omnimon in name.
Yes, like I don't understand this whole idea, and I
think
know what you're saying. We're like, okay, you have to embrace the new stuff, but when the new stuff, when they say we're giving Pulsemon support, and then they say we're looking at the old Pulsemon support, the thing that made it, it says we're putting you to 3. This Kazuchimon exists to put you to 3, and you're sitting there, and that's good. That's what the deck wants, but you literally cannot put him on top of these new
I think it's valid to
multicolor
be it's
cards.
valid to be frustrated about there being a new Pulsemon tribe that is not compatible with the old Pulsemon tribe.
Or
Right,
only
but
some of the cards
The
from the
reality
old
is
tribe.
that the old tribe was bad, and so they're updating it. It's like
The new tribe is bad from what we've seen too.
you haven't seen it all yet. You can't decide yet. But what it comes down to is they didn't errata the old Shoutmon stuff to be cross art, and they didn't errata the old Dark Masters to be Dark Masters.
Bagra armies.
Yeah, they didn't go back and do that. They just said, all right, you have to move on from here forward, and that's the reality. You have to get Pokemon.
But that's the frustrating thing about tribal decks and just like that design space, because we essentially are just forced to say, oh, set's over, time to get rid of these cards.
Well, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, Kazuchimon's my favorite card in the game, not because I was playing a dedicated Pulsemon deck back when I started. It's because I put Kazuchimon as my top end in Yellow Hybrid, and I had a lot of fun playing the card in Yellow Hybrid. But he's not a Yellow Hybrid card. He's not a Pulsemon card. He's just a yellow card.
Yeah.
That does its own thing.
Yeah. So you ran it out of its tribal deck,
and I just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just like the card.
That's fun. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna play a Kazuhamon deck that runs the line. But is Kazuhamon a cool card? Yeah, and I'm gonna experiment with it in both blue and yellow decks.
But now I can't even put it in the deck.
No, I agree with you. I'm not all for this only tribal stuff.
Yeah.
I'm also not a huge fan of having these crazy multicolor decks.
No, I don't know. I like them, but I like that you have to put in a little work for them. I'm looking at putting, we already spoiled it, Metal Greymon into Diaboromon, and it means I either need to run some Greymon level 4s, which is hard because Diaboromon's best slot is its level 4 slot.
Yeah.
Or I have to pay an additional memory when going from level 4 to 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I think having that additional cost in order to go out of tribe is fair. It's like, okay, this is a good effect that we want to be restricted, so we'll allow you to do it, but we'll make it cost a little bit extra. One more. What I don't like is if they say it can only Digivolve off of this name. You have to run the support cards. And then, you know what? We're not going to print any more support cards.
To be fair, I don't think there are any cards that do that.
Well, we just talked about Hawkmon.
It feels strange.
Hawkmon digivolves off of blue.
Here's the thing.
It's the same situation. It's just you're paying more for it in a blue deck than if you went off of Hawkmon.
Here's the thing. It feels strange to complain about Marcus and how the Shine Greymon deck works, but if you have Marcus Damon and you have the BT4 Rise Greymon, which is very supposed to clearly support this, I'm playing red yellow tamers. You actively, and it's a dual color card when they were first trying to introduce dual colors. You literally cannot Digivolve it with Marcus's effect. Because Marcus says you can only Digivolve into a yellow Greymon, but Rise Greymon is not considered a yellow
until it's on field.
Until it's on
same thing Rebellion. If I search it with a purple memory boost, or with a black memory boost, I gotta throw that shit in the trash.
And it's just, and I get
bottom of the deck.
Bottom of the deck, even worse.
They were not. They just weren't like ready to take the step. And I get that it's hard to future-proof things like that, but really, you could have.
Well, you either could on that. Number one, you could on that. Number two, you could have errated. Number three, I just wish the game didn't start going in this tribal direction.
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it, but
we can be mad.
I'm allowed to say things on it. We have a platform,
and I think on that platform.
I want to say something on the platform.
All right, goodness.
That was it.
All right. Well, on that platform, I think we got through a lot of content today. Number one, probably buy singles, but sometimes there's situations where we don't want to.
Do the math. Don't let Jeremiah do your math.
Yeah, don't let Jeremiah do your math. Number two, try to keep the design space of the game open. And also, number three, bring back Diaboromon. He's my favorite guy. I think for now, this has been the Errata Sonata. I'm Ian.
I'm Jeremiah.
Noah. Take care, guys.
Hey, guys.